Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Tonight, I want to speak to the men who no longer chase, not because they can't, but because they've learned the cost of running after things that vanish at dawn. You've lived, you've built, you've lost, you've made peace with your past. But now, she walks in, half your age. A flicker of fire in her eyes. She lingers longer in your gaze than she should. Her smile tells you a story you haven't read in years. And you wonder, is this curiosity, is this admiration? Or is there something more beneath the velvet surface? You see, when a younger woman desires an older man, it isn't always about money or power. Sometimes it's about depth. It's about mystery. It's about a man who knows when not to talk, when to take his time, when to look into her and not just at her. But before she moves closer, before she surrenders to that attraction, she's asking questions, silently, subtly, sensually. And if you don't know what those questions are, you'll miss it. You'll fumble the moment. You'll be the man who was almost chosen, but never touch it. So tonight we're not here to fantasize, we're here to decode, to translate desire into understanding, and to answer the 7 unspoken questions a young woman asks when she's seriously thinking about sleeping with you. Because gentlemen, age doesn't fade your fire, it sharpens your flame. Let's begin with a question that isn't spoken but is felt. When she looks at you, and she leans in just a little more than necessary, what she's really wondering is, does he still see himself as a man who can be wanted? You see, when a younger woman is drawn to an older man, she's not testing his wallet, she's sensing his self-concept, his inner image. Does he walk into a room like a man who still knows his own gravity? Or does he shrink when youth is nearby like an old song fading under a louder one? She wants to sleep with the man who hasn't forgotten he's desirable, not because he has to prove it, but because he simply believes it. And this isn't about arrogance, it's about energy. It's about the silent invitation you give off without saying a word. Do you still carry the scent of romance? Do you have the patience to listen but the courage to take the lead? Are you here to be admired or consumed? The first question she asks is, does he still believe he can be wanted, not just respected, not just relied on, but deeply, sensually, unapologetically desired? And the answer isn't in your words. It's in the way you touch her hand and don't rush to let go. It's in the way your eyes rest on hers like you're tasting a story. It's in the way you make her feel like she's the one being seen, not just the one doing the seeing. Because when a woman wants to sleep with a man, truly wants him, she's not only thinking about how you'll feel in her body. She's imagining how she'll feel in your presence. Will she feel feminine? Will she feel safe? Will she feel chosen not for her youth, but for her essence? And that leads us to the second question she asks, usually without even realizing she's asking it. Will he make me feel safe enough to be uninhibited? This is where older men either captivate or collapse. You may think she wants you to be wild, dominant, powerful. And yes, in certain moments, maybe she does. But first, she wants to know if you can hold space for her vulnerability, not with pity, with presence. Because a younger woman, even in her boldness, is still searching for a man who won't misuse her softness. She's used to being pursued for her appearance. She's not used to being respected for her sensuality. And there's a difference. Respect is what allows her to open. It's what lets her drop the act. It's what makes her whisper secrets in your ear that she's never said aloud. Because when you offer her emotional safety, she offers you a side of her that no one else has seen. And emotional safety doesn't mean being a yes man. It means being grounded, unshakable, not reacting to every mood she has like it's a storm, but being the lighthouse that stays steady even when her tides rise and fall. It means not rushing to solve her, but simply being there, fully there. And when she feels that, when she realizes you're not intimidated by her energy, or dismissive of her dreams, or judgmental of her needs, she begins to lean in closer. Her guard lowers, her breath deepens. Her laughter lasts longer, and what begins as playful flirtation suddenly carries the weight of meaning. Because here's the thing most men don't understand: a woman doesn't give her body to the man who makes her laugh the most. She gives her body to the man who makes her feel the safest in her own. And it's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about being whole. It's about being able to hold silence without it turning awkward. About knowing that intimacy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the space between the glances, in the courage to ask deeper questions, in the ability to stay, especially when most men flee. So let's move gently now to a third question. This one simmers beneath her confidence, beneath her attraction, beneath even her flirtation. It's soft, but it's crucial. She wonders, will he honor me afterward? Because it's not just about the night, it's about the morning. It's about whether she'll wake up and feel like she shared herself with a man or gave herself away to a boy in a grown man's body. You may think this doesn't matter if she's the one who initiated it, if she was bold, if she undressed you first, but make no mistake, every woman remembers how she felt after. Did she feel cherished or just used? You see, young women often feel the pressure to be cool, to act like it's just sex, no strings, no feelings, but inside she still wants to be remembered. She wants to be held, not just physically, but emotionally. She wants to know that her vulnerability didn't vanish the moment the heat faded. And older men have an edge here, if they choose to use it. Because you know what it means to value a moment. You've learned the art of reflection. You've seen the cost of rushing things. So when you hold her afterward, when you say her name like it still matters, when you send a message the next day, not out of obligation, but out of respect, she feels it deeply. This is what separates you from the rest. Not your car, not your clothes, not your status, but your character, your emotional maturity, your quiet reverence for the feminine. Because what she's really asking, without asking, is, will I matter to him after the climax? And you, dear man, have the power to answer her with your tenderness, with your follow-through, with the way you look at her not as a conquest, but as a woman you had the privilege of experiencing. Now, if these 3 questions are already stirring something in you, good. That means you're paying attention not just with your ears, but with your heart. That means you're ready to go deeper, to see intimacy not as a transaction, but as a revelation, a place where age isn't a boundary, it's a gift. Because when you respond to these silent questions not with fear, but with presence, you become unforgettable. When a woman starts to feel safe in your presence, when her body no longer braces for judgment or performance, something unexpected happens. She becomes playful, curious, more open than you've seen her before. And that's when another question begins to bubble up, one that's quiet but profound. She begins to ask herself, can he handle the woman I'm becoming? Not the girl she was at 21, not the version who laughs at every joke and hides behind the illusion of always being agreeable, but the real one, the woman who is figuring herself out, who is not afraid of desire, who is learning how to speak her truth. And sometimes her truth is messy, it is evolving, it isn't always convenient. You see, younger women are growing up in a world that tells them to be everything at once, soft but assertive, sexy but modest, independent but still pleasing. And in the swirl of all that pressure, they crave one thing more than anything: permission. Permission to explore themselves, to not have all the answers, to be more than a fantasy. They want a man who doesn't freeze when her opinions challenge his, a man who doesn't get defensive when she changes her mind, a man who is turned on not just by her body but by her becoming. This is why emotional flexibility matters. Because she's not asking if you'll agree with everything she says. She's asking if you'll stay connected to her when she reveals more of herself. That means when she shares a piece of her past that makes you uncomfortable, you don't retreat. When she voices a boundary, you don't try to seduce your way around it. And when she shows ambition, complexity, even contradiction, you don't shrink her to make yourself feel bigger. Older men often have the wisdom of experience, but do you also have the openness to witness her emergence without needing to fix it? Do you know how to remain stable while letting her be in motion? Because if you can sit in that sacred tension, she won't just be interested in sleeping with you. She'll be drawn to growing with you. And for a woman in her prime, that is the most erotic thing of all. Now we move to a more physical layer. Desire is already present. The looks have lingered. The words have softened. The space between you carries weight. But before she gives herself to you fully, she wonders something ancient. Something encoded in her feminine core. Will he worship me or just take me? She's not asking for flowers or poetry, although don't underestimate the power of those either. She's asking if the experience will be about mutual presence or just his release. She's asking if you see intimacy as a place of mutual exploration or just another performance. Will you touch her like she's a script you've read 100 times before, or like she's a poem you're tasting for the very first time? This is the 4th question, and it is not shallow. It's sacred. A young woman wants to be met with wonder, not because she's young, but because she's rare. And when an older man forgets to bring reverence into the bedroom, when he moves with entitlement instead of invitation, she feels it. She may not say it. She may even finish the evening with a smile, but inside something closes, because she didn't just want to be wanted. She wanted to be worshipped. With attention, with intention, with curiosity. She wanted her pleasure to matter as much as yours. She wanted to feel like the experience expanded her, not emptied her. And you, with your years, your stillness, your understanding of tempo, you are in the perfect position to give her this. You can go slow when others rush. You can read, breathe instead of waiting for words. You can savor without needing to conquer. This, gentleman, is where true eroticism lives. In the moment where you don't just kiss her mouth, you kiss her silence. You notice the small ways her body reacts. You ask with your eyes before you move with your hands. You lead not with ego, but with deep listening. And when you do that, she feels it in her soul, not just her skin. This question, will he worship me, is a portal. If you answer it with presence, if you step into it with awareness, she'll give you more than her body. She'll give you her trust. And now there's a shift. Something deeper enters the room, a vulnerability that wasn't there before. And that's when we arrive at the 5th question. It is not about sex, it's about memory. Will this mean anything to him? Not because she's trying to fall in love, not because she wants to control you or own you, but because meaning, even in fleeting moments, matters to women in a different way. She wants to feel like this wasn't just something you did. She wants to feel like this was something you shared. Because even in the most casual of encounters, there's a longing to be remembered, not in a dramatic, romanticized way, but in the quiet dignity of knowing that what happened between you two mattered, not just for the body, but for the soul. And this, dear man, is your gift. You've lived long enough to know that pleasure without meaning feels empty. You've tasted enough wine to know that the second glass is only beautiful if you savor the first. You know how to make a moment linger. So when she asks, even silently, even through a glance after it's all done, did this mean something to him? Oh, she's not looking for grand declarations. She's looking for authenticity, for honesty, for a look that says, you mattered to me tonight. For the kind of presence that lets her leave feeling not used but enriched. And when you can offer that, when you can leave her feeling elevated, not with fantasy, but with grounded emotional resonance, you become more than a lover. You become a mirror of her worth. These aren't just questions about sex. These are questions about connection, about emotional courage, about intimacy with meaning. Because make no mistake, younger women who are drawn to older men are not just looking for experience. They're looking for depth, for a man who doesn't flinch when things get real, for a man who's not addicted to performance, but anchored in authenticity. And if you've come this far with me, listening not just with your curiosity but with your heart, then you already know something powerful is opening. So here we are. She's looked at you across the table. She's leaned into your energy. She's felt your presence, your steadiness, your ability to hold the moment without rushing to name it. And now something much more vulnerable begins to rise within her. It's not about sex anymore. It never really was. Now her body is quiet, her heart loud. And in that silence, she asks the sixth question, perhaps the most fragile one of all. Can I trust myself with him? Not, can I trust him? That question belongs to her head. This one, it belongs to her body, to her intuition, to the part of her that knows when something is beautiful, but maybe not safe, when something is tempting, but possibly costly, because no matter how curious, how bold, how self-assured she appears, there's always a younger part inside her, wondering if I let go. If I let him see me, will I still be whole when it's over? This is the question that reaches beyond your confidence, beyond your charm, beyond your clever words. It reaches straight into your integrity. Because she's not evaluating your desirability anymore. She's searching for your honesty. She's trying to feel, what's his emotional footprint? Does he leave women better than he found them? Or does he take a piece with him every time he goes? And in that moment, that raw, electric, delicate moment, you don't convince her with promises. You show her with stillness, with how you treat the parts of her that are unsure, with how you honor her hesitation instead of seducing it into silence. She's asking in her own way, if I give myself to him, will I feel more free or more confused? And you have a chance to answer without a word. You answer with how you listen. With how you breathe when she shares something tender, with whether you can hold intensity without needing to name it, solve it, or turn it into performance. Because women, especially younger women, have been taught to perform their femininity, to put on sensuality like an outfit instead of feeling it from within. But when she's with a man who is safe, patient, emotionally intelligent, she doesn't perform anymore. She becomes. She softens. She surrenders, not to the man, but to the moment. And it is in that space, gentlemen, that true intimacy happens. When trust isn't manufactured through control, but invited through presence. So now she's asked 6 questions. 6 layers of curiosity, fear, hope, and longing. And if she's still there, if she hasn't pulled away, then she's circling the final one. The one that carries not just emotional weight, but existential gravity. It is the final veil before vulnerability becomes action. She asks, will I recognize myself after this? And I want you to pause with that. Let it sit in you. She is not asking if the experience will change her. Of course it will. Every intimate moment transforms us in small and large ways. What she's really asking is, will this moment bring me closer to myself or further away? This is not about regret. It's about identity. You see, when a woman gives herself to a man, especially a man older than her, a man she subconsciously associates with wisdom, power, maturity, she doesn't just want an experience. She wants integration. She wants to feel like the version of her who chose this, who entered into this space of closeness with you, was not a stranger to her, but an evolution. She wants to leave your arms and still feel at home in her own skin. That is the truest form of respect, that you made her feel not just wanted but more whole. That being with you didn't fracture her. It expanded her. That she didn't disappear into your world. She simply added a new chapter to her own. This is the heart of it, isn't it? We think seduction is about attraction, about pleasure, about dopamine and chemistry and clever timing. But real seduction, meaningful seduction, is about integration, about leading someone not just into your bed, but into a deeper part of themselves. That's what she's asking for, whether she knows it or not. And you, older man, are uniquely positioned to give that. Not because of your age, but because of what your age has taught you. Because you've known the taste of hollow pleasure, you've chased validation, you've made love without presence. And now, You want something else. You want something that lingers, that echoes, that feels like nourishment, not just novelty. So when a younger woman asks these 7 questions, not aloud, but in the way her body moves, in the way her eyes linger, in the way her voice trembles, she is not playing games. She is calling you into something sacred, and you get to decide how you answer. Not with rehearsed lines, not with flashy gestures, but with truth, with presence, with the kind of masculinity that does not overpower but grounds, with the kind of confidence that says, you are safe here, and the kind of heart that whispers, you'll be seen here. And when she feels that, truly feels it, the need for performance disappears. There is no need to impress, to pose, to manipulate. She gives herself not because you convinced her, but because you created a space where her true self felt welcomed. And that, my dear listener, is the most erotic thing in the world. There's something magical about a woman when she decides to give herself to you. And I don't mean her body. I mean her full self, her laughter, her edge, her awkwardness, her contradictions, her quiet needs and loud opinions, her perfume and her uncertainty. All of it. When a younger woman says yes to an older man, her yes is wrapped in complexity. She's saying yes not just to your hands or your experience or your ability to lead. She's saying yes to your energy, to the way you make her feel in her own skin, to the reflection she sees in your eyes. And what she's looking for in that reflection, more than anything, is this permission to evolve. Because for all the allure and spontaneity and fireworks that come with youth, there's also confusion, there's self-doubt, there's a sense of being looked at but not often understood. And you, the older man, offer something the world rarely does: clarity. You offer pause, you offer gravity. But here's the paradox. While you may bring her clarity, she brings you back to life. She reminds you of a part of yourself you forgot. The part that still gets curious. The part that laughs too loud. The part that wants to discover, not just explain. The part of you that still believes there's something to feel, not just manage. Because for all your experience, your knowledge, your understanding of women, this one doesn't want to be handled. She wants to be met fully, not as a fantasy, not as a project, but as a human being who happens to be young and curious and alive. And the question that now echoes between you is no longer hers alone. It's yours too. Can I stay open to being changed by this? Because the moment a connection becomes mutual, the moment desire transforms into recognition, you're not just answering her questions anymore. You're facing your own. Can you soften? Can you receive her without needing to mold her? Can you hold her joy without fearing its intensity? Can you make love not from a place of proving your worth, but from the knowing that you are already whole? You see, this dance between older man and younger woman is not just taboo or thrilling or exotic. It is deeply spiritual, when it's real, when it's grounded, when it's not about exploitation or compensation, but about resonance. When you stop trying to win her and instead try to witness her, that's when everything shifts. That's when she looks at you not like a mentor or a mystery or a trophy, but like a man, not an older man, not a richer man, not a wiser man, just a man. And that is all she's ever needed. And you stop trying to feel young again. You stop trying to prove you've still got it, because you realize in her presence that your age is not something to hide. It is the very reason she's drawn to you. Not because of what you can buy, but because of what you can hold. Her energy, her chaos, her beauty, her sadness, her ambition. Because she wants to be held, and not just physically. She wants a man who can hold a moment without rushing to fill it, who can sit in silence without needing to fix it, who can see her, all of her, and not shrink in the face of her fullness. And maybe you've never been that man before. Maybe for most of your life, you were the one chasing youth, chasing validation, chasing moments that would make you feel alive. But now, you've learned, you've lost, you've rebuilt, and you've come to see that real intimacy doesn't come from casing. It comes from inviting, from letting someone arrive in your world and trusting that you're enough for them to stay. And she knows this. Even if she can't say it, even if she jokes and teases and dances around the truth, she's looking for a man who doesn't get scared when she stops playing games. She's looking for you, not a version of you that's trying to be someone else, but the version of you that is finally honest. The one who has nothing to prove but everything to give. And when you meet her in that space beyond pretending, beyond control, beyond strategy, you find something rare. You find presence. You find passion that doesn't burn out after climax, but lingers in the way you look at each other afterward. You find connection that isn't measured by how long it lasts, but by how deep it goes. And that is where transformation begins, not just for her, but for you. Because real connection doesn't leave you the same. It returns you to yourself. It reminds you of who you were before the masks, before the pressure, before the world told you what kind of man you should be. It invites you to be the man you already are, fully, freely, fiercely. And that is the man she wants. The man who listens without judgment, who touches without taking, who speaks without performing, who loves without needing to dominate. Not a perfect man, not a powerful man, a present man. And that, my friend, is who you've always been. There's something sacred in being wanted, not for what you do, not for what you own, but for who you are. And when a younger woman looks at you with desire, when her energy wraps itself around your presence, she's not chasing your past, she's feeling the gravity of your now. You are not a relic. You are not the older man in the corner waiting for your moment to expire. You are the man who has lived, and in living has learned how to see her, to see yourself, to see the space between you not as a transaction, but as a possibility, something honest, something textured, something unforgettable. And here, at the end of this conversation, or perhaps the beginning of a much deeper one, I want to remind you of this. The questions a young woman silently asks when she's thinking of sleeping with you, they aren't about your bank account, your gym schedule, or your car. They are about who you are when everything else is stripped away. They're about your stillness, your strength without control, your desire without hunger, your touch without demand, your presence without noise. She wants to know, do you still see yourself as a man who can be desired, not for nostalgia, but for depth? Will you protect her spirit while she opens her body? Will you leave her better? Not because you promised to stay, but because you stayed present when it mattered. Can you hold space for her becoming, without shrinking her into your past? Will you worship the experience, not just consume the moment? Will you give it meaning, not through gifts or words, but through awareness? Can she trust herself with you, and still recognize the woman she was, and the one she's becoming? And you, in all your years, in all your reflection, in all your dignity, you have the power to say yes. Not just with your lips, but with your actions. Not just in the heat of passion, but in the quiet that follows. You have the power to give her something she doesn't even know she's asking for. A memory that affirms her beauty and her being. A moment that reminds her she is not just wanted, but respected. An experience that doesn't leave her emptier, but more alive. That is the kind of man you can be. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you've done the work of becoming. And if you've forgotten that, let this be your reminder: your age is not your limitation. It's your refinement. It's the evidence that you've been through fires that didn't burn you, only made you slower, wiser, more awake. And women, especially younger women, can feel that. They're not just drawn to your power, they're drawn to your peace. They're drawn to the way you don't rush to respond, the way you let silence say something, the way you hold the door, not to impress, but because stillness lives in your bones now. They're drawn to the way you don't need to prove anything anymore, because you finally believe who you are. That, my friend, is irresistible. And here's the final truth I'll leave you with: if she chooses you, not because of desperation, not because of dependence, but because your presence speaks to her becoming, honor it. Don't turn it into a performance. Don't make it a trophy. Make it a sanctuary. Let her body be safe with you. Let her questions be answered through your listening. Let her curiosity meet your stillness. Let her edge meet your warmth. And let the moment, whatever it is, however long it lasts, be honest. Because honest intimacy leaves something behind. It becomes a part of your breath. It becomes a part of how you see the world afterward. And it becomes a part of how she sees herself. So if you've made it here, if you've sat with me through these layers of vulnerability, sensuality, wisdom, and truth, then you already know the older man she wants is not the man with the flashiest life. He's the man who can hold her fire without being burned. The man who can open her without losing himself. The man who understands that being wanted is a privilege, but being trusted is holy. And now it's your turn. If this touched you, if this spoke to something real inside of you, share your thoughts below. Let this be more than a monologue. Let it be a conversation. You are not done growing. You are not done being desired. You are not done discovering who you can become in the arms of someone who sees you clearly. So don't disappear behind your age. Don't hide your wisdom like it's a burden. Stand tall in the truth of who you are. A man who is still becoming, still desirable, still dangerously alive. Here's to being chosen and knowing how to honor it. If this resonated with you, leave a comment, give it a like, and share it with another man who needs to hear this. And if you're ready to learn how to be not just wanted, but remembered, then stay, because we're just getting started.